welcome to Stillspeakpod. Tonight's video is about two 14-year-old missing girls from Tucson, Arizona. Before we get started, I wanted to briefly rant about something. This story appears to be a runaway story, but the problem I have is that with runaway stories, or runaways in general, they don't get as much urgency or concern. And I'm not saying that as my opinion. It's factual. If you go to any of the missing persons databases, you see child after child after child in each state. And the majority of those missing children are teenagers and are listed as runaways. When you go to look up information on any of those children via the media, social media, anything, to get any information on them, you find nothing. And, a lot of children go missing every day, every week, every month, a lot. The great majority are found alive and okay. And yes, a lot of those who are found alive and okay were originally runaways, but they're usually found rather quickly if they're safe. And I get it. We can't cover every single case. I get it. I really do. But children under the age of 18 are vulnerable. And then you put them out in the world, right? They're running away. Wherever they are, they run away. And then they become easy targets because they are vulnerable. And yeah, they may have started out as a runaway, but what happened to them once they were gone and they were wherever they decided to go? And I think that's overlooked. And I get that police have a lot on their plate. They're dealing with murders and car accidents and etc. And, they're like, oh, well, they ran away. They'll come back home because they don't have food and they don't have a car and they don't have money. But in that period of time where you're kind of blowing it off, expecting them just to come home, somebody out there could have already targeted them. And this is why we have a human trafficking problem, okay? Sex trafficking. When somebody wants to rob a house, sometimes they will case the joint, right? They'll check the doors and the windows. They'll see when the person's home or not home, their patterns, etc. And with predators, they know what they're looking for, right? They case it. They'll see this young girl. She very clearly looks young, or boy. And they see them alone, and they sense it. They just have that sense that this particular child, is an easy target. And if you're a runaway and you don't have an elaborate plan of sorts, if somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, I have a place where you can stay, let me buy you a meal, are you going to decline that as a young teenager? Most likely not. So in my opinion, we really need change when it comes to teenagers who are listed as runaways. And we really need to do better, because we just don't know what happened to them once they were out in the real world, without the covering and guidance of an adult. And in this particular story, while it may seem at this point that it's possibly a runaway situation, there are some things that are very concerning. And I'm worried about these two young girls. And I'm really hoping that we can spread this and get their names and faces out there as much as we possibly can to help these families to locate these young girls. And before we get to the story, I also wanted to say some kids run away because they have a really bad home life, and it's legitimate that they do. Some run away because they think they have a bad life. And what I mean by that is they don't realize how good they have it, and just because they can't use their phone or because they got punished, they think their life sucks, so they run away. Then you have situations of mental health, disabilities. There's a variety of reasons why children run away, and we should definitely not just assume that they were running away from a bad home life. And even if a child ran away from a bad home life, we should still be helping to locate them, because once they're located, the police, therapists, counselors, psychologists, etc., will meet with them and talk with them. And if there is issues at home, that will be the time for the child to speak up, and then the proper authorities can get them help. Now, I'm not saying in this case these girls had bad home lives. As a matter of fact, I have no information about them having bad home lives. And, it's hard to find that type of information, because what people post on social media doesn't necessarily represent what's really happening, and the only way you can actually get that information is if other people who know the family speak up. Nobody has done that in this story. But again, if that's the case, then we still need to help locate them so that they can get the proper help. From what I've seen, I do not believe they left bad situations. But I'm just saying, in general, when we're talking about missing children, we need to, put that aside and still help look for them, and then let it be dealt with later. The two girls' names are Isabella, and I think the last name is pronounced Cringe. It could be Kring. I'm not quite sure. Kring. It reminds me of Kringle, like Kris Kringle, and we are close to Christmas. But she goes by Izzy. So Izzy, and then last name Kring. And the second one's name is Jade Innis. Inniss. And a lot of people are spelling her last name wrong and only putting one S. The family has spoken up and said it's two S's, so make sure you include two S's. Both girls attended Cannon del Oro High School in Oro Valley in Tucson, Arizona area. And they only live like a mile apart from each other, okay? But Jade's home fell in a different jurisdiction. Izzy is filed as missing with the Oro Valley Police, and Jade is reported with the Pima County Sheriff's Office, and I think that's how you pronounce Pima, Pima. And so I think they made that complex because when I tell you the story, it seems that these girls are most likely together. So like filing them at missing places, I wish the law enforcement agencies had made an exception and just allowed them to be reported missing at the same agency, but it is what it is. So both girls go off to school last Monday, the 22nd, and from there, it's anybody's guess. They did not attend school that day. And they just kind of vanished, really, to be honest with you, because there's been no sightings of the girls anywhere. They don't know if they were picked up by somebody, and if so, who. There's no like time of when they left the school. All we know is that at some point they were at the school, but they actually didn't attend school that day. Now, Several people have said that Izzy was in contact with an unknown adult male who's supposed to be her boyfriend and was traveling to Connecticut with him. And this is through friends and social media. It is not a fact. There is no evidence to support this at all. Now, why Connecticut? Well, Izzy and her family just moved to Arizona from Connecticut this past summer. And she made friends with Jade pretty quickly, and they hit it off right away and became close friends. And the mother of Izzy does not know of any boyfriend and anything of the sort that would make her go to Connecticut. Allegedly, this unknown adult male is 25 years old. So clearly, even if this person exists, it's not really her boyfriend, right? Because she's 14. It's not even a fact. And there's no evidence yet that the two girls are even together. It's presumed. And I would think, given the circumstances, that that is most likely the case. But I'm just letting you know that it's not actually proven fact they are together. So what happened was Izzy's mother went and reported her missing on Monday, last Monday, the 22nd. And the next day, Tuesday night, she found out that Jade was reported missing shortly after she had reported Izzy missing. And given that they both went missing and they both didn't go to school that day and they are friends, this is why it's presumed that they're most likely together. If you find one, you're most likely going to find the second one. And there is a chance here, because it's not proven fact that they're together, that this is unrelated and just a coincidence. I don't believe that to be the case. I do believe that they are together. But yes, there's absolutely that small chance that it's two separate situations. Let me tell you about the girls. Izzy has long, dark blonde hair and green eyes. She's 5'2" and 120 pounds with a petite build. Her ears are double pierced on the earlobe. She has a scar over her left eyebrow. She was wearing a red and black checkered skirt, black tall socks, black and red chunky tennis shoes, and black short-sleeved shirt. She often wears hoodies. Again, she's 14. Jade Innes is 5'4", 180 pounds, light brown short hair and brown eyes, and was last seen wearing a plaid yellow and black skirt with leggings and a black hoodie. She is 14 as well. The parents say that neither of the girls have ever tried anything like this. Neither of the girls have ever been involved with drugs or criminal activity, and neither of the girls have been in any trouble. Neither of the girls were allowed to have social media, but the parents learned that they did have accounts, and they would log in and delete the apps afterwards, or they would use friends' phones to hide their usage of the social media accounts. Both girls did have cell phones. Jade had a flip phone, and Izzy had an iPhone. Now, I didn't even know flip phones even still existed. Honestly and truly, I didn't know that. The only flip phone that I knew of recently was some new phone that came out that is like a Razor flip phone looking thing. I'm not quite sure that she had that one, but I know they sell some for teenagers. I forget the name of it. My friend just bought it for their child. It's the kind of like phone that's made for teens where all they can really do on it is make phone calls. They can't use like any apps or anything like that. I'm not sure if that's what Jade had, but she had a flip phone. And the phones have not pinged at all since Monday afternoon, the day they went missing. And when the family was out searching around the high school, they actually located Izzy's phone in a trash can, and the phone was in 3 pieces. It was totally disassembled, and the main components that are needed were ripped out. They described it as that somebody had to have had some strength to do this to this phone. It wasn't just like a hammer smash type of situation. It was totally ripped apart. Jade's phone has not been located. Neither of the girls have been active on social media since they went missing. They don't qualify for an Amber Alert because there's no vehicle description, or some part of the license plate number, and there's no evidence that they were abducted, right? It seems at this point that it's a runaway situation. Now, there's a Silver Alert in Arizona. Some states have a different name for it, but that's the one for usually seniors over 65, or if somebody has a developmental disability. And let's talk about that for a second, because the girls do have some personal and or medical issues. Now, I don't particularly like to air out teenagers' personal struggles, and I talked about this in my videos about Amber Claire and Noah Claire, who were missing. And I said that, if a teen is found safe and they come home, they have to deal with the fallout of what just happened. And I would hate for them to have all their personal, struggles and dirty laundry out in the public, because that would be really embarrassing to a young girl, at least in my opinion. However, unfortunately, when you're telling these stories, you really have no choice sometimes but to share that information, because it's needed so that the public understands there's urgency, okay? Now, let's talk about Jade real quick, because this is a situation where I really do have to tell you this. She suffers from PTSD. I don't know what that was about. Depression, anxiety, and was recently hospitalized for suicidal ideations. So, that's really sad. And Izzy actually has seizures and does not have her medications. In my opinion, this information alone should make them qualified for more than what they're getting. I also want to say, without sounding like I'm 80 years old here, when I was in school, in high school, it feels like a million years ago now, or another lifetime, yeah, you had anxiety, definitely anxiety. There were people who suffered from depression, who were suicidal. However, what I've recently been noticing, and this is from friends who have teenagers or kids who are in their early 20s at this point, is that it seems more common nowadays for kids to have anxiety disorders and depression and anxiety, etc. I don't know why. I just been hearing about it a lot. So it's really not abnormal that she suffers from these things. And my heart breaks for her, because that's so young to be dealing with all that, right? And I've said it in other videos, high school's a really tough time. It is. High school is nerve-wracking. Yes, anxiety and stress and pressure and bullying, and high school is just a rough time, okay? And so any type of mental health issue is going to be exasperated, okay? So I feel for this young girl, and it seems like she's been through a lot, and I would love nothing more than for her to come home and get the help that she needs. And with Izzy, seizures are no joke, right? If you ever seen anybody in person have a seizure, it's very scary. So I'm very concerned for her as well. Both girls were using their Snapchat to talk with older men, which obviously the parents didn't know about. That's also very alarming. That's evidence that they were communicating with people they should not have been communicating with. The issue here is, if they ran away together and it was a plan that they came up with together, that makes me wonder if they also included another friend in their plan and said, listen, we're doing this, cover for us. And that person obviously would know more than what they're coming out and saying. But put yourself in that person's shoes. You have law enforcement, your own parents, your friends' parents, and the school. So you're going to be fearful and you're not going to speak up, right? You're going to be concerned that you're going to get in trouble for not speaking up sooner or before they executed the plan. So that's concerning, because I feel that if these two girls trusted one another to come up with this plan, then they may have trusted a friend to tell the plan to. And the longer this goes on, if there's somebody out there who knew what their plan was, the longer that they're not speaking, the more they're not going to speak. Because then they've allowed this to go on for so long and didn't say anything. That's going to make them more fearful to speak up, which is, it's a sticky situation. And hey, maybe nobody knows, but it's something that I thought about, because I'm like, well, they trusted one another. I wonder if they trusted a third party and told them what they were going to be doing. In addition, one of the thoughts that I had about this Connecticut thing was, Izzy was from Connecticut. So I was like, I wonder if she possibly told her friend to lie for her and make her mother believe that she went back to Connecticut when really that's not where she is at all. That's a possibility, for sure. Now, on their social media, there was some things that concerned me. I believe it was Izzy seemed to have an interest in modeling. And the reason why that concerned me is that there have been stories and scams in the past where a predator will target a young girl of her age and pick up on that and say, hey, I have this modeling business, and if you leave your house, I'll come pick you up and I'll give you a modeling contract, and you'll be on the cover of Vogue magazine. Don't tell your parents because they're not going to let you do it, yada, yada, yada. The girl falls for it, unfortunately, and becomes a victim. In addition, what is a 14-year-old girls talking to older men for? Really? 14. It's not like they're 17 and 18 and they're talking to 22, 23-year-olds. They're 14, for Pete's sake. So then you have to wonder, where did these girls meet these men online, these older men, to be speaking with them? Did they meet them in groups? Did they reach out to them, or did the men reach out to them? I mean, this is scary stuff, man. I'm not sure if I mentioned it yet, but it took a while for the school to search the girls' lockers. Like a good while. It should have been done on day one, but nope. It took the parents calling over and over and over again. Nothing was found. The girls have no money. And Izzy's family has said that Izzy declined her mother's offer for her to earn money a couple of days before her disappearance, because she was trying to save money to buy some things off of her favorite website. So that's a little odd, because if she had this plan to run away, you need money to survive. So why would she not take this offer? In addition, she was texting about an interest in pursuing a particular venture as recently as days before her disappearance. The Anti-Predator Project has picked the case up and they're working with a private investigator now. He believes that they're with somebody who is an adult because they have no way to feed themselves, travel, or pay for anything, and I'm going to have to agree with him. I do believe these girls are with someone of age. Jade's family has expressed some complaints about the Pima County Sheriff's Office. And they had a post the other day that said, up to this point, your involvement has been little to none. Yesterday was the first day they even contacted the family to ask day one questions. 1 week after Jade and Izzy went missing. Do better. Be better. We want all efforts exhausted when it comes to bringing these girls home safe. In addition to that, they went missing on Monday, right? And Thanksgiving was the 26th. And a lot of agencies were closed. Now, police never closed down fully, but detectives, will have the day off. And so, yeah, they were having some issues from the start, but it sounds like that has kind of resolved itself, and now police are becoming a little bit more active in trying to help, but the family has been doing most of the work. They said, we have knocked on doors of houses around the school to ask for security cam and doorbell footage. We have asked, the CDO, which is the high school parents, and in their Facebook group, if they saw anything at pickup or if they have dash cam footage. They asked a nearby fire department for their footage, and the fire department would only release it to the police, so they asked the police to request the footage. One church next to the school has a camera, and they're pulling up the footage, and they're trying everything. Now, the school, and this sounds absolutely insane, itself does not have security cameras, allegedly, which just sounds like, what? It's 2021. Are you freaking kidding me? With all the school shootings and you don't have cameras? But there are some cameras around the school. In addition to Connecticut, they have gotten tips for all other types of places, including states and Mexico. And they're trying to follow up on all those leads, so these girls can be literally anywhere. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they are still in the country. It's just unknown where in the states they actually are. There's nothing pointing them in any direction to find them. And they said that local police, FBI, Homeland Security, and Border Patrol are now all involved at this point. They're imploring parents who have children who go to that high school to really pry and ask their children over and over, are you sure you don't know anything? Are you sure you didn't see them? And just beg them that if they do know anything to please speak up, even if it's anonymous. And they have an email for Izzy, the family. Find Izzy Cringe. Is it cringe or cring? I'm sorry. I hate having to mispronounce a name, but Kring. Okay. At gmail.com. And there's also a Facebook page set up for Izzy, Finding Izzy, Kring. And just going over the parents' post again, it's mentioned that the phone suggests that it was destroyed with force. Enough force that a 14-year-old girl probably couldn't have done that. At least not in their opinion. Now, even though the girls are missing at the same time, from the same area, are friends, etc., and we're presuming that they're together, what has kind of happened here is that Izzy seems to be getting a little bit more attention than Jade, and I don't think that's intentional. This is actually why I think that's happening. 2 reasons. Apparently, Jade's family wasn't comfortable with doing news interviews, And Izzy's family has done them, okay? So since they're the ones in the quote-unquote spotlight, then I can understand why that's happening. But in addition to that, I think it's because the way the story seems is that possibly Izzy was the one who had this plan for them to leave with somebody, and she kind of took Jade along, and Jade was like, okay, I'll go with you. That's just how the story sounds, right? We don't know if that's actually what happened, but that's how the story sounds. So people might be thinking like, oh, we need to focus on Izzy and what was Izzy's connection, who was Izzy talking to, etc. Bottom line here, though, is if they are together, if you find one, you're going to find the other. They both deserve attention, definitely, absolutely, but it doesn't really matter which one's found, because then you're going to find the other one, most likely. At least Izzy's mom said that she has a little bit of comfort in the idea that these girls are together, and she's hoping they're together. This story just feels different to me. I've seen a lot of missing person stories. I actually have a ton saved that I would love to do videos about, and I wish I had more time in a day. I do think that the initial plan was a runaway type of thing, okay? But I think they were taken advantage of and lured or persuaded to leave. And at this point, I think that they may be in danger. While they're 14-year-old girls, okay, they're still at an age where you appreciate things you did when you were 8, right? Like Christmas and Thanksgiving with your family and presents and the holiday activities like, going to see Christmas lights and things like that. And Jade's family actually said that during this time of year, she loves to do the Christmas cookies and make cupcakes. She loves to see her cousins who are younger, and she sings and plays with them, etc. And taking off at 14 sounds like a great idea until you're out there. And then you're like, okay, now what? Right? And I would think that at some point the girls would get homesick or worried or concerned about upsetting their parents further. But we don't know their motives for doing what they did, so it's possible that they're out there willingly and okay and just have no plans of letting anybody know where they are. If that's the case, though, I would think that if they're, let's say, at somebody's house somewhere, that they at some point would Google their names to see if, any information was out there about them being missing. And then once they saw that their parents were frantically looking for them, that may be a trigger for them and upset them enough to want to go home. And this is nothing against these young girls. I'm speaking about girls in general, and I don't mean this about all girls. I'm just talking about some girls at that age, and I was one of them. Okay, you're naive. I'm just going to be blunt. You're naive, you're gullible, you have no life experience, and when you are that age, you think that your parents are idiots, you know everything, you're in charge, you got this, I can survive on my own, that type of attitude, okay? And, once you become an adult at 18 years old, and you do go out into the real world, you're like, well, shit, man, I wish I was 14 again. Because you realize how hard it really is, right? You have to work, and you have to pay your bills, and you have to, be responsible, and it was actually pretty nice and cushy living under your parents' house, roof, because they took care of the bills and you didn't have to worry about putting food in the fridge, etc. But in addition to that is that when you are that age, and a lot of them are naive and gullible, what I mean by that is, again, I'm also speaking about myself at that age, is that you get yourself into situations that are not good, okay? And you do some really stupid things. And then when you become an adult, you look back on those things and you're like, damn, it's a miracle I even survived. What the hell was I doing? As a matter of fact, the other day, I was driving with my husband and my kids to go celebrate Thanksgiving, and my son asked me what this power line was, okay? So I'm like, oh, it's a power line. He's like, okay, well, what the hell is a power line? So anyways, make a long story short, I said to my husband, back in the day when we were in high school, I said, we used to get drunk in the woods, and in the woods there was this power line, and we used to try to climb it. Why? Because I was 14, 15 years old, and I was drunk and stupid, and I was trying to show off to the guys I was with. And if you get to know me, I'm kind of a chicken shit, and I would never, ever do anything like that now. But I was young, naive, gullible, stupid. I'm just gonna say that about myself. I was just so clueless back then. Are these girls that way? I have no idea. I don't know these girls. I have no idea. And, there are some kids out there who are not like that, for sure. It's definitely not all. Some of them are wise beyond their years. They would never put themselves in those types of situations. They're intelligent, resourceful, street smart, and not easily convinced or gullible or naive. The only thing that makes me consider that they may have been possibly gullible or naive to dangerous situations is the fact that they were communicating with older men through Snapchat. And they most likely were unaware the dangers of that. When you're 14, it might seem cool that some 20, 25-year-old wants to talk to you, and you have really no idea that his intentions are not good intentions. Because what 25-year-old is interested in a 14-year-old girl? What about girls your own age? Mm-hmm. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm highly concerned for these two girls. And they'll be on my, mind. And I'm going to be sharing it to my social media accounts. And that way you can share it easier that way. Again, this channel has Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Stillspeakpod. Some hashtags being used are Bring Izzy Home, Bring Jade Home, Arizona, Connecticut, Missing in Arizona. I'm trying to think what else I've seen. Seen a lot of tagging of, journalists and news reporters and news stations. We can do Find Izzy, Find Jade. Then you can also do hashtag their full names, like Izzy Cringe and Jade Innes. Again, Innes is INNISS. That's Jade's last name. And Izzy's last name is KRING. It's the holiday season. Today is December 1st. I didn't even realize that. And we are, 24 days away from Christmas. These families want their daughters home. And I'm hoping for a Christmas miracle for them. With the Noah Claire and Amber Claire story that I covered on this channel, they were found days before Thanksgiving, and that was just a perfect timing because it was a way to be thankful. And let's hope with this story that it's similar and it's a Christmas miracle. And if they are found and they are brought home and are safe, I will be hoping that there is no anger or resentment towards their parents, that they will understand that their parents loved them so much, that they were desperate to find them and make sure that they were safe, and that the families can work through whatever hills they need to climb to, be back with their children. And if they are found safe, even if they're angry that they were found and brought back, one day they'll look back and they'll have kids of their own and they will understand. So let's help these families out. Share the video. It takes 1 minute and I'm out. Until next time, I'll see you soon.